Pump up the jam.
Pumping up the jam. Pump it up while my feet are bumping.
You haven't watched Film Me a Kunk, have you?
Pumping. Yes, of course I've watched Film
You
Me a
have?
Kunk.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. From 80s hip-hop duo.
It's one of the best.
Yes.
This is roughly 120 years before Pump Up the Jam by, where are they from? Belgian?
Yeah,
Belgian techno artist Pump Up.
Live on everything? Okay.
Tektronic.
Roll it.
The history of the Gaelic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. How to do, boys and girls? Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I'm Rocky. That's Eric.
Yate.
On today's show, special treat, we have
Empty glasses. Oh.
empty glasses. For now, they're empty.
Yeah, okay.
Powers Irish Whiskey. Yeah, this is a pretty fun one. I don't know.
Who is this a gift from, Rocky?
From me. I bought this one back a long time ago, but it's March, St. Patrick's Day month. Figure we should do an Irish one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Yes, so let me pour these into said glass. Mac, come collect yours when you have a second.
I'm so happy I work here.
Give Mac a little bit more. There you go.
You mean when I unfold from back there?
Yes, indeed. So, what tartan do you have on there, Mr. Mac?
I have Leitrim Crest tartan on there.
Crest. Very nice, very nice, very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Eric?
Scott Red Muted.
Very nice, very nice. And I have on the brand spanking new Purple Mountain Majesty tartan that is designed and released a week ago.
Mountain.
Purple Mountain Majesty.
You said mountains.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's
Is
been
it Purple
that's
Mountain
been
or
my
Purple
mistake
Mountains?
for months. 'Cause
Yes.
I keep going mountains, 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 but it's actually mountain.
Yes, in the song it is.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so Mac, tell us all about Powers Irish Whiskey.
Well, let's start with the nose.
Yes,
Shall we?
Cinnamon, clove oil, and white pepper, in balance with russet apples and ripe pears, on a background of charred oak.
I
Is
feel
it just me, or is this nose really weak?
No, I think it's you. I'm getting it. I'm getting more like green apples
Yeah,
and
I
the
would
charcoal.
say apples.
Yeah, and the char.
Let's try this again.
Yeah,
Like clove, I consider more of a stronger scent, and I'm not.
yeah, not picking up a lot of it. And it's getting a lot of the esters or the ethanol or whatever it
I'm
is.
just getting alcohol.
Yeah, getting a good amount of that. But we just opened it, so that's on us.
Maybe my brain's broken. I don't know.
That's why I'm trying to spin it around. Okay. All right, gonna take a little sippy sip.
So according to the taste, cinnamon, green peppers, with a touch of nutmeg, combined with orchard fruits, all the orchard fruits, vanilla, and toasted oak, laid upon a crisp barley core.
A crisp barley core.
I can't get the apples thing out of my head. I'm getting like strong apple alcohol taste on this, like almost like apple corn on the
Okay.
sides of my mouth. I'm getting like the sour apple kind of, or the apple corn taste.
But no green peppers.
Maybe like a tiny bit tart. So
Yeah.
touch maybe, but mostly just the sweet.
I don't know. When I saw these notes and I saw it's green peppers and orchard fruits, I was like, "Is this like a V8 splash?" Like,
Right. The bitterness might be construed as green pepper, but
Yeah. Not like a strong, like, oh my God, it's like munching on a green pepper, but maybe a touch. I'm going to give it a little bit of water.
I'm getting pepperiness on the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peppery, pepper, green.
My tongue's turning green.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, green for St. Patrick, don't you know? Except his color is blue. Happy St. Patrick's Day in advance, y'all.
Yes,
Sláinte.
that as well. Ooh, a little bit of water definitely cut down the bite.
That-
Still get that sweetness.
It is sweet. It is a bit sweet.
Yeah.
You've had red breast?
Yes, I think we actually did it on the
We
show.
did a shot.
Ages
Yeah.
ago. Ages ago. That's still my favorite, I think.
It's got it like the after. The after is almost like a metallic-y taste in my mouth. A touch.
I don't
So,
disagree.
yeah, how do they say? Spices slowly fade to a rich barley,
And
toasted
aluminum?
wood, and a wonderful honey, complex honey flavor.
That's the aluminum. Yes.
Yeah.
The-
It's the lead.
Exactly.
Lead solder.
Yeah. Not bad. Better than I thought it was going to be.
I think I was actually enjoying it more before I watered it down.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Weird, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one.
Okay.
Like, I don't mind it, but I want a little bit more bite back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. It did. If they're saying honey on the back end, that's a little more caramelly for me.
Yeah. I just get generic fruity sweetness. I do get the apple thing 100%. And,
Nose has opened up for me now.
and metallic.
Nose is better.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting just apples in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apples in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, shove
I
an
wanna
apple
drink-
up your nose.
Now I want apple corn.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff was good. Or sour apple. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They have a cherry one too.
They have a cherry one. For those that don't know, it's a German. Is it a schnapps technically or no?
I
like
I think that's where it is.
Yeah, it's like a flavored liqueur. It's like 20% ish alcohol. It's not like a crazy
know.
high percentage, but it's
It's apple juice.
it tastes like apple juice. It really is dangerous.
It tastes like apple juice.
And they make a sour apple and then max out a cherry one. So
Cherry.
interesting.
I think there might be a pear as well.
Cherry apple.
Yeah, I
apple,
believe a
apple,
pear.
Apple,
I
pear
believe
apple.
a pear. Yeah.
Pear of apples.
Indeed. Okay. All right, Mac. Let's rate this. Powers, 1 to 10. Is this a particular? It's Powers Irish Whiskey Gold Label.
Gold label.
I don't know if that matters.
Probably means it's a blend.
Okay, I believe you.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
whenever they say something like that, or like, distiller's choice, but it's a blend.
Mac.
I think I'm gonna go like 6-8 before,
Okay.
and
Before the
probably
water?
like a 6-1.
With the water. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll give him 6-8 because that's the natural, the natural for it. Eric.
It's not bad. I don't mind it, but I'm gonna go 4.7.
Okay.
I wouldn't really seek this out at all.
Yeah.
It's nice, but
It's fine. Does the job.
Yeah.
I'm much more of a Scotch whiskey guy than an Irish whiskey guy. So I would, but this isn't bad. I'm gonna go 6.6. I'm gonna go right around max score. I feel it deserves that. It's not bad. Okay.
it's the least you could do.
Indeed. All right, boys and girls. As always, we are here but your humble servants to answer whatever questions you have, Kilts and or culture related. Put them in the comments, pretty please. And while we are waiting for Mac to start amalgamating questions and whatnots,
Amalgamac.
yeah, amalgamifications,
Do, 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 do.
amalgamac. Okay, we're old.
First up, Alex May asks us, have you, the USA Kilt staff, considered taking up any Scottish-related hobbies, for instance, baking, crafting, combat sports, etc.? If you want to, but you haven't, what's holding you back?
Okay.
So I'm going to expand this to Gaelic hobbies, not just Scottish. So
Okay, that's fair.
if you wanted to say hurling, for instance.
Yeah,
you know.
sports.
Yeah.
Got it. Mac, and we'll bring you in for this one as well. Do you have any hobbies, baking, anything, sports that you would consider doing? That are
I considered
Irish or Scottish?
curling for a while.
Curling? Okay.
That was one that I was looked at because there's a bigger curling club not too far from here
Yeah.
that I considered for a while, but then I got into axe throwing, so that kind of
Fair.
took front bumper.
Combine curling and axe throwing. So you have to
Curl throwing. Yes, you got to throw the stones.
No, imagine the sweepers. You're throwing axes at them the whole time while they're trying to sweep.
Well, what's the there's a Scottish sport that is very similar to hurling.
Yes, that one.
I will think of it here in a
Yeah,
minute.
I know what you're talking about. I know what
Because
you're
it has
talking
like the long.
It's still
Not highlight.
no,
No,
but
it starts with an
no.
S.
Yeah.
It's still a form of hurling. I think it's like the Greater Gaelic League. Like they have different rules. It's very
Yeah.
similar game, but the rules are slightly different. So when they have matches between the two countries, they have to do an amalgamation of the rules to accommodate everybody. That's what I can barely remember.
Shinny?
Shindy.
Shinty?
Shindy. Yeah, Shinty. Yeah.
Shinty, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
from the notes beside me.
And if it hadn't been like a year and a half since I did that video on hurling, I would have remembered that.
Yeah, because that's a really old sport.
All right, Eric,
So it's hurling. What?
what are your
What? Oh,
yes,
hobbies.
Hobbies.
Um,
Thoughts.
I don't know. I mean, where do you stop with this? I mean, because there's generic stuff that you could argue is Gaelic, but then there's more specialized stuff. So I'm a hiker, so hill walking is an obvious one. I've done archery, which you could argue is a classic Scottish sport until that upstart golf came along. Yeah, barbaric. I've done some cooking. I've done some baking and some cooking. I've made my own haggis at home. I'd like to get into doing puddings, like black pudding, white pudding. I haven't done those yet, but that's on my list. So culinary stuff like that, I like.
Yeah. For me, I would say that I would like to try, or at least a slightly younger version, less arthritic version of Rocky would like to try Highland Games. I did track and field in high school.
Right.
So, shot put or stone put would be fine. I would, turn in a caber. I might need a smaller caber, more like a broomstick, to be able to get it over. But I would have liked to have tried that maybe a little bit more in my prime. The food thing I enjoy. I'm not much of a cook, but my wife makes a spectacular Irish soda bread.
So eating.
Eating, yeah.
Scottish hobby
I like
is
the eating thing. Yes.
Deep frying things.
Or drinking. Drinking scotch. Testing different scotches.
Drinking
There you
is
go.
a good Scotch.
It's a good pastime.
Good Gaelic pastime. Yep.
Indeed.
Yep.
Trying to think of any other sports or anything. Yeah, I wouldn't say rugby is specifically a Scottish sport, but I'd like to get into rugby a little bit. They play it a lot in Scotland. Now, why haven't we done it? Mac, what is your excuse why you haven't done the things you wanted to do?
Axe throwing was closer.
That's fair.
Geography.
Yeah, and I believe the curling is in that facility is all year long because obviously it's indoors, so they can do it all year long.
Where is it at?
I don't think it's in Westchester. It's not like
Is it
That's
Iceland?
not far.
It's not.
Because believe me, I know hockey rinks in the area.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I don't know which. I don't know if it's their own. If they have their own
Okay.
facility, because it is.
Okay.
It is they hold like larger
Tournaments
tournaments
there and stuff. Okay.
So I don't know if it's their own facility or not. But yeah, axe throwing was closer. So
Right. Okay. Eric, what's your excuse why you haven't been more productive with your life? And
Well, I spend all my time working here, basically.
that is actually my excuse.
Yeah. It really is time. I mean, hiking doesn't have to cost a lot. Cooking doesn't have to cost a lot. It's just making sure it's like forcing myself to take the time for myself is usually what holds me back from doing a lot of things, including those.
Yeah. I would say like hiking, not like, massive hiking, but I do like going out walkabouts in nature, especially with the sun. Sun meaning my son, not the sun. That's kind of a given. But yeah, it's just lack of time. It's for I work essentially 6 days a week, and 10 to 12 hours a day. So it's difficult to find extra time while also having a wife and kid that you have to see from time to time. Apparently, it's frowned upon if you don't, I guess.
Now, you're gonna go hunting this fall, right?
that's the game plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
deer
there you go.
stalking. There you go.
There you go. Deer stalking.
Now you got to wear plus
Sorta, kinda.
fours.
And a
Sure, why
kilt.
not?
There you go.
But in blaze orange though.
Blaze orange plus
Not
fours.
a bad idea. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hope that answers your question, kind of.
Ish.
Yeah.
What hobbies?
We just ramble.
What hobbies do people out there do? Does anybody do any comments?
Seeing golf.
Sure.
Has been
Yeah.
brought up quite a
Seeing
bit.
fly fishing is a very traditional one, actually.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
old country.
Okay. All right, Mac. What else do we have coming in as far as questions from the interwebs?
So we have Duncan Sims asking, he says, Happy Friday. Your Purple Mountain video made me think, have you guys ever designed a tartan only to later realize that there's no good pleating option?
Have we? Probably. Yes and no. No good pleating option is very, very rare, because when we have the advantage of we make kilts, so we understand the pain points at every step of the process, from weaving all the way to finishing the kilt. We understand the pain points, and we try specifically to avoid those pain points. And if I don't, Mac will remind me. When I won't say when Emma and Jillian did the Appalachian folklore, that was the closest to one that was finished that was too big of a set size. It was going to be too difficult to pleat. And that was, I think, really my only input to them during the design process was, what was their set size, Mac? Do you remember what they had it before?
Before
Was it like 12 inches or something like that, or 14 inches?
huge.
Yeah, it was very, very big, and I said, look, this is how it's going to have to be pleated, and kind of like showed them the pleating, and they were like, oh yeah, I see how that could be a problem. So Jillian squished it down a bit. So we try to think of those things before we get to the finished item. Of the America 250 ones, Mac, which was the one that we got and the set size was like a little bit too big for how we wanted to do it? Was it Grand Canyon?
It was Grand Canyon. Was the one where we thought it was. We had it set a certain way, and when it got in from the mill, it was larger than what we expected it to be.
Yeah. So it was like
we
a
had to
half inch
retweak
larger,
that.
I think.
Yeah.
Oops.
But it still came out nice. Like I still don't have any like, oh my god, no, we can't sell it kind of thoughts about it. But yeah, it's generally speaking set size for a kilt. You want between 6 and 8 inches. If you're designing it specifically for pleating to the stripe, and you want to have your considerations for a 5-yard wool kilt or a shorter yardage kilt, you may want to bring the set size down to 6.5 kind of area. I'd say that's about it.
Now, what would you consider the ideal size to be for?
For me, it's probably about 7.5, especially if I want to do it to the set. If a tartan has enough room, enough wiggle room outside of any of the main elements, or you can do it a pleat reverse set or to the full set. 7 inches is about the right number, because a reverse set you're going to be about 1:6 for the ratio, and for a full set you're going to be like 0.75 to 7.75. So yeah, that's I'd say where about the sweet spot is. Agree?
Yeah. It came up in the comments, so it's a good. It
Sure.
was a good spot to drop that in there.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. So yes, have we done that? Yes, absolutely. Is it something you can't work around? No, you just figure out this is with the thing that's in front of me, with the pattern as it is, because we have to do this for tartans from the mills all the time. With what this is, what is the best option? And there are plenty of times where we'll give a piece of cloth to a kilt maker, and Sophie will have a kilt and say like, Mac, can I get you to consult on this one? And we'll have 2 or 3 people take a look at it and say, okay, how would you pleat it? How would you pleat it? How would you pleat it? And then we just pick the best one out of those. So
now when you're designing a tartan, if you make it too small, let's say you make it at 4 inches, can you go to the mill and go, hey, when you weave this, can you proportion this up so that it is this?
Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of the times that's what we do, especially if there's an existing tartan from that's in the register that somebody once woven, or if somebody designed a tartan but they designed it with a really, really small set size. We will say, hey, here's the thread count, adjust it proportionally so that it ends up at 7. It ends up at 6.5, whatever you want the actual set size to be for that particular tartan. We do that all the time, and then the mills just adjust it accordingly. A thread count is essentially a guide. And think of it this way. If you... A Royal Stewart tartan kilt, this isn't Royal Stewart, but a Royal Stewart tartan kilt, in a set size 3 inches versus, projected on the side of a building in a 12-foot, set size, it's still Royal Stewart. It doesn't change because the thread count is off. It's the proportions of the numbers and colors in sequence to each other. So you can scale it up or scale it down. That doesn't change the actual tartan. It just changes the size of the set. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, good questions. Cool. Eric.
Oh, sorry.
I just sucked coffee down the wrong pipe.
Medic! All right. Steve Walters. Hi, Steve. Says, any thoughts on using a mismatched vest and jacket? What in Saxon wear might be the odd waistcoat? Different colors or maybe materials or patterns. So what about mixing up your jacket and your vest?
Yeah. Color, fine. Patterns, materials, that's the gray area to black area. So if it is, if I have a green tweed and I have a blue, a green, let's say, not herringbone, just a regular green tweed, and then I have a blue non-herringbone tweed, and I want to mix and match those, as long as the colors, complement each other and don't look too odd, sure, have at it. I'd say minimal pattern mixing, like a plain weave tweed versus a herringbone tweed. It's okay. It's it could still work. If you're mixing like a cotton material, plain weave cotton material, or a duck or a canvas versus a tweed, it starts to look a little odd.
Yeah.
If it's a silk vest with a tweed jacket, I don't know. If it's a pattern, silk, like a paisley silk vest with a green tweed jacket, nope, that's it. That's a hard pass for me. Wearing with a kilt?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Eric doesn't know about that.
I'm just stuck.
So I'd say there's kind of a sliding scale. I would take it more on a case-by-case basis, how it looks together with the shirt, with the jacket that you're wearing on the outside, and with the kilt itself. How well does it all work?
Yep. Yeah.
If it's a black Argyle jacket and a silk vest, maybe it's okay, but yeah. Eric.
Basically what he said. I mean, I think you have to proceed with caution.
I don't know about that. Sorry.
I don't know about that either. Thanks for watching. No, like different color tones of tweeds, sure. A tartan waistcoat that's the same tartan as your kilt, but you're wearing a black or a tweed jacket, that's traditional.
That could work, yeah.
Fine. People do that all the time. Well, we're used to. Mixing different kinds of fabric, that gets very weird. Mixing different patterns. Like imagining like a window pane tweed and then a vest that's, I don't know, something
Paisley,
else, checky or something. It's just, I don't know. The bolder, the more risk it is. That's basically what it comes down to. And I think certain fabrics don't play well together. Like, are they going to stick together or ride weird when they rub against each other? I'd be concerned about that too.
That's a fair point.
So we intentionally did a photo shoot a few years ago with Adam, who used to work here, where he intentionally matched some different tweed colors in the outfit to see what would work. And we're using Isle of Skye as the tartan. And yeah, we came up with a combination that looked decent. But you got to proceed with caution, especially if you're going to be spending money on this stuff. I know those who do this when they're putting together an outfit, they'll get the swatches first. And you're not dealing with different materials. You're not dealing with prints or anything. I'm basically limiting this just to playing with different tweeds. That's all I'm talking about. And I think in that area, you can do some stuff. Or, again, a tartan waistcoat on the bias can be good. I would not mix tartans. There's that again. I'm a little bit curious about the idea of the paisley, because I think if it was a subtle paisley, It's definitely pushing the envelope, but
It's pushing me off a cliff is what
I'm
it's pushing.
I'm actually okay with a paisley tie. I'll always be okay with a paisley tie with tartan because it's just that pop. But Mac is dying to get a word in here.
So I'm now picturing Eric coming in with a paisley tie, just a fine checked shirt,
Got that?
a Fair Isle knit sweater vest.
Have to buy that.
So and
a jacket in this tweed pattern here with the window pane.
just all in, push
Yes.
all the chips forward.
Yes, I will be waiting around the corner from his desk with a baseball bat to just take him out and put him out of his misery.
Challenge accepted.
No, but
just for the photograph.
all right. So, but going back to the tartan vest,
You can't include Fair Isle sweaters in this though. They are traditional. They're one of those things where they're like blue jeans. It's like you can just wear
do
them.
it. Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't worry about it at all with that. In fact, I would argue a sweater vest of any kind, it's a lot more forgiving because it's just its own thing.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. Now I'm going back to the tartan vest, and I'm trying to picture in my head a tartan vest with a black argyle, great. With with the Highland green tweed or something for a modern tartan, great. And then I'm looking at your vest like, oh, if there was a window pane jacket with a tartan vest, I don't think I could do it. I don't. As much as I love Tattersall shirts and I love window pane like check kind of tweeds, I don't think I could do a tartan vest with a window pane tweed.
do not attempt to adjust your Highland wear.
Oh.
We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical.
Or the bias, yeah. No, so
We have an unfair bias against mixing patterns.
it's fair biased. It's not unfair at all. Now it's the pattern thing you got to be reasonably careful on, especially the paisley, especially anything paisley is Scottish, but especially things that are just outside of it. I almost think of it as like it's too much. No single part of the outfit stands out as like this is the cool part, and then the other parts all complement it. It's like this and this and this and this. It's just too many things. Your eye doesn't have anywhere to rest. So
I mean with the patterns especially. I mean, forgetting about the kilts completely for a minute, just mixing different kinds of material. Let's say even the colors tone and everything, but you have like a tweed jacket but a Barathea vest. That can just look odd. I don't know. It's just. I'm not saying I don't want to say you should never do it because I hate to stifle that creativity like that completely, but it's definitely risky territory. I mean, the rule of thumb that we usually go back to is that with Highland dress, the focus of attention is supposed to be the tartan. It's supposed to be the kilt. Everything else ideally supports that or takes a complete backseat to it and is just neutral because it's all about the tartan. And then the sporran as a decoration on top of the tartan. So once you start playing around with this other stuff that could be a distraction, then that's where you're getting into weirdness.
yeah,
Getting into risk.
I would almost liken it to like a movie with like 4 leading men. There's a reason it's not really done. It's too much going on, too many things to follow.
Well, the market's just not ready for that anyway.
Indeed. So you need a single thing and then a supporting cast to make it work right. So that's my take
Supporting
on it.
cast. I like that.
Yes, indeed.
Cool.
Yes. All right, Mr. Mack.
Alrighty, so we have Andrew the Church Piper.
Church
asking,
lady?
I think we know what he does now. Okay.
Of all the tartans in House of Edgar's Genesis of Tartan collection, which one would you most like to see in a different color palette?
Oh.
A different color palette.
Wow.
Okay. I won't say I'm stumped, but I don't want to
hard.
see necessarily different color palettes because I appreciate them for what they are. That said,
Yeah.
what's the is it the Moy Hall is the red one with the dark blue and dark green?
Moy Hall is the name that was given to the older interpretation of it. The one that is correct, color-wise, based on the dye research and thread research that Peter McDonald did, they have named the Jacobite Remnant. If I'm remembering correctly.
Okay, but it's the red one.
But it is the red one.
Yeah, I could potentially say that one in muted just to bring that to so you can actually see the difference between the green and the blue because they're very very similar, very dark.
Yeah.
And then a muted red, maybe that. If I had to pick one, possibly that, or I would play with some of the colors. I wouldn't necessarily go straight color palette.
Well,
then
that's a different tartan.
But Royal Archer, no, like for Royal Archers,
Oh,
maybe
you're
like play with the green a little bit, or the yellow, or the red, but leave some of the other colors. Like if you really like the green, leave that, but then play with the red and
So
darken
now
it.
you're playing with the one I was going to talk about.
Okay, go right ahead then.
I would be kind of fascinated by RCOA. That's what we've been calling it in online chat.
Those in the know.
RCOA.
The RCOA tartan. Royal Company of Archers.
RCOA. Archery. Don't bother running; you'll just die tired. I'd like to see that as weathered.
Okay.
Because I think it would take some of the sting of how busy it is out a little bit.
Okay.
But honestly, as I've said before, that one's actually kind of grown on me. Mac's probably happy about that, but it's actually kind of grown on me in a weird way. So, but I think a weathered version of Royal Company would be kind of cool.
Yeah. The Culloden I just like as is. It's got I
wouldn't mess
very
with
much
the
a
Culloden.
muted kind of color palette already.
Yeah.
But a twist on a muted color palette, so I wouldn't mess with that one at all. Mac, what's your vote?
Like I'm re-looking at them again. We just did a.
Hey, he's cheating.
Well, we just did. I was trying to remember which one it was that we just did one in production. The Lost Tartan.
Mm-hmm.
Like
171.
that one.
I'd change that brown.
I like the brown.
I'd either keep the brown and change like the blue and the yellow in it, like tone a little bit more. Like I agree with you. I think the base of most of them are fine. I would choose different aspects within each one to adjust. Like even Glen Afric, I like the base of that. I just hate the green that's in it. I would want to change the green that's in it.
What would you change the glean and Glen Afric to?
I went more of an olive than
Okay.
And it would tone well with the yellow that's in it, because it's a yellowy green.
But that's where I'm kind of going with
Yeah.
the rest of them. I'd want to change aspects of them, not
The whole thing.
thing.
Yeah.
No.
For the Lost Tartan, I would go more of a weathered kind of color palette with it, because that brown it's too much of a reddish kind of brown. That one I don't like it like a Hershey's bar brown. I want something a little more earthy.
I don't know, earthy, or maybe go the opposite direction and make it more of a tan.
Okay.
Lighten it a little bit. But I mean, were you talking like making it more muted, like a more jewel tone, or because it's already Wilson's Magburn color palette, so it's kind of.
I know, which is I love Wilson.
Which I love, yeah. I think we all do.
So I think the majority for me is that blue is just that light blue is just too poppy, and it needs to be toned down a little bit.
I wish they would have picked. That's the one thing that I would probably change from the Genesis collection. I wish they would have picked a different Wilson's tartan that exemplified Wilson's color choices better. Meaning, an olive green in it that's a dominant color, navy blue, like something that was more on the nose, felt more like Wilson's than that one felt like a fashion choice of the time, which brown was popular, we knew at that time.
You're disagreeing with Peter MacDonald?
No, I'm disagreeing with House of Edgar for picking that one.
I thought Peter was the one who guided that decision, though.
There was one that they had looked at before the Lost Tartan.
Okay.
And when it came down to making the decision, they realized, like, oh, this might not actually be a Wilson's one. So they said, let's pick something else that we know is Wilson's. Mm-hmm. And then they picked that one because there's an excellent example of it in that jacket. So it does exist, and they knew that it was Wilson's. Okay. So that's why they ended up there, but I wish they would have picked a more Wilson-y feeling.
Yeah. This just reminds me more of, like, Stuart Black. With that dark kind of hard contrast in there.
Yeah, it's a nice looking tartan, but I would tweak the colors in it. Yeah,
but the story behind it is a big factor in why it was selected too.
Yeah. That's the story in all these was why they were.
Yeah,
selected.
I can't fault the choice of 171 based just on the story.
Yeah,
of it. So, I know.
And and we do know that both Peter and House of Edgar, Simon and Emma, all said, we had like 12, 15, 20 that we could have done, but we had to boil it down to the 6 with the strongest stories. So that's how they ended up at the ones they ended up at. But, maybe Genesis Part 2.
I was about to say, Genesis Part 2, or I'm curious what other people think, like if there's other oddball tartans that anybody thinks of, or tartans that have a story that people don't remember the story from other periods in history that would be interesting to see.
Now, they were trying to do pre-1820,
I know.
so I get that. I get why they wanted to kind of stick there.
Yep. I get.
Yeah. So, Simon, if you're watching, maybe Genesis Part 2. I'll make some suggestions.
Make you an
Maybe we
offer.
should do them.
Well, I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I mean, I had been kind of thinking.
No, we're not going to do it. Don't worry about it.
I'm just as always, I'm fascinated with the 19th century stuff because I mean, I was just doing background check on the Gordon tartan because of the Gordon Highlanders and found some information on the original regiment and then the Gordon Highlanders, which was the amalgamated after 1881. And Mac was also working on a Gordon tartan reenactor kilt, World War I, which, yes, we will show in a video shortly. And it just got me thinking about the stories behind a lot of these things. I mean, I was going through the list of engagements that those guys were in, and it's just like started off like right with the French Revolutionary Wars and then the Napoleonic Wars, and it just keeps going and going and going. It's like they were freaking everywhere. So I think there are stories behind some of the tartans which people don't know, just kind of like if this thing could talk kind of stuff, which I really kind of love. I mean, that's what's so cool about some of the Genesis tartans also. But
that's exactly. Genesis tartans, that's what I liked about the piece that you did on the Genesis tartans. It's the story. Like tartan is part of the story, and it has its own story within it. So.
It's a time capsule.
Yeah.
If you know what's going into it.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed.
Yep.
All right, Eric.
That was Mac, right? Okay.
Yep.
It's a fun question. Thank you for that one. Curious to know how often you pipe in church, by the way. Okay. Jeff Plavier. While you rightly use Rocky.
Right.
Very, very, very rightly, you use mills in Scotland and England. Are there mills in Ireland, Canada, or the USA that produce tartan? And if so, what has been your impressions of those mills, assuming you've seen their product?
Yeah.
Are there any mills outside of the UK that could be in the running for kilt making?
Short answer is yes. Long answer is no. There's back when we first started in 2003, there was a mill in Canada called Fraser and Kirkbride, and we used to get the occasional bits and bobs from them, but they have since gone out of business, and well, I shouldn't say gone out of business. They sold into another company called Ingalls Buchan, and I think they no longer weave in Canada. Mac, did you ever deal with any Fraser Kirkbride cloth or no?
Not that I remember.
Their cloth was either 12 or 14 ounces. It wasn't the normal 13, and it was merino wool.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yes, and so it was a nice tight weave, but it was kind of like floppy. And the one really, really weird thing that I used to hate about their cloth was the when it was stretched during the finishing process or whatever, one side was longer than the other. So when you cut it down the middle and go to splice the tartan, from the top to the bottom, you'd always end up with 3/4 to an inch.
Wow.
Yeah, like a crazy step. A crazy step. So we never used them much because you'd literally be like pulling at the cloth to try to stretch it back out. It was not fun from them. But so that's one mill that was in Canada. I think they were in BC up in Canada. The other mill that I'm thinking of is it Heritage Weavers?
Family Heirloom Weavers.
Family Heirloom Weavers, yeah.
In Redline, PA.
Yeah. They've we tried, like we've literally tried years and years and years ago. Are there any mills close to us? Can we do something in the U.S.? And Mac, through his reenacting knowledge, knew of Family Heirloom Weavers, and we contacted them. And basically, we got a piece. They did the piece of was it Blackwatch?
They did a piece of Ferguson.
Okay, I had a sample of Black Watch.
Yeah, because I saw it in their store.
Yeah.
They had wove did a bolt of it up for a customer of theirs that they only ended up buying a small piece, so they were stuck with the rest of it.
Yeah.
So they ended up burning through it in the store, but when talking with Pat about it, and then that's what I brought it to you to show you that sample.
Yeah, and they sent me a piece of Black Watch too, because we were talked about potentially doing something with them. And the problem, didn't they just don't do finishing anymore?
The problem is the finishing process is hard to find someone to finish in the U.S.
Yeah.
Is just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the loom or the mills in the U.S. like weaving a piece of cloth. It's not just one company that touches the thing. You have to have dyers. Well, first you have to have spinners. Then you have to have dyers to dye the yarns. And you have to have weavers. Then you have to have finishers. So there's at least 4 large steps of the process. And once mills started going under in the U.S., once globalization of the economy, once the products started coming from overseas, it basically just hollowed out the mills in the U.S. And it's the ancillary businesses that support the mill itself kind of all started going away. So in talking to Mike from Family Heirloom Weavers, basically his response was, yeah, we can weave cloth for you. It's not a problem. Getting it finished becomes the problem because he had to mail it to. There used to be a place in Jersey, I think he said, there was a finisher, but they went bust.
Canada.
And then at one point he was going to Canada to get things finished, and you had to worry about customs back and forth. And he was trying to find something in North Carolina.
Wow.
Like there was.
And there goes your cost.
Yeah, it's cost. It's not like it's just down the road. It's a UPS ride away and a UPS ride back. So on a big, heavy bolt of cloth, that's going to cost a good chunk of change. And all of that gets added into the cost of the cloth. So when we were actually looking at it, because I went through a good exercise trying to get this done just to see if I could support American businesses, 15 years ago. And it really was not cost effective. I mean, by the time we were all done with it, the minimums were, reasonably high, like a piece or something like that, which we can handle, but it's not ideal. And then you have to worry about the finishing and all the price back and forth. It was cheaper to get it from Scotland than it was to try to have it made in the USA and go from here to here to here to back to there to over to me. And reinvent the wheel the whole time because they're not really used to weaving tartan and things like that. So then it's a matter of, putting them through the training process, for lack of a better term, or exactly how we want things done to emulate how the Scottish mills are doing it and stuff. And it just kind of became this isn't their normal forte. This isn't what they typically are doing. So let's just keep ordering from the different Scottish mills and, not have to worry about it as much. But yeah, so we've looked at having stuff woven in Canada, looked at having stuff woven in the US. The industry isn't there anymore. It's for the most part, it's gone away. There are some companies that'll have like cotton woven or denim or things like that, that are or flannel, things that are much more widely used, flannel shirts like Pendleton Woolen Mills.
Pendleton Woolen Mills, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah. So there are companies that are still doing it, but it's very specialized, but broad enough that they can do it in other industries.
But either they don't need to be in certain processes, they don't need to use the certain process for what they're doing, or they've already have an in-house thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's what the rest of Pat's rest of what Family Heirloom Weavers does is.
Was it Pat or Mike? I think I said
Pat.
Mike. Sorry.
It's the rest of what he does is all stuff doesn't need to be finished. So that's where his bread and butter is.
Yeah. When did finishing start becoming a thing on cloth?
That I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a thing back in like the 1700s, which is some of the stuff he's weaving is like colonial era / Civil War era kind of thing. So he was trying to do historically accurate things, which is why he didn't need to necessarily have a finisher. But for us, we needed the cloth to be finished, not in the grease or things like that. Eric, you were going to say something about Pendleton or no?
Nope.
Okay.
Just Pendleton popped into my head as a specialty operation that has a connection to Tartan and is U.S. based. I don't know how much of their weaving is done in house at this point, to be honest. For all I know, they are an international operation now too. But that's the only option I can think of.
Yeah, Pendleton Woolen Mill, for those who don't know, make beautiful, beautiful blankets, and as well now they make like clothing and stuff as well, flannel shirts and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you were saying something about they made like the blankets for American.
Yeah, they
Indians.
basically first and this is tangential, but they cut their teeth, so to speak, by weaving blankets, which were trade blankets, and they were good enough, and they were selling enough of them that they started doing custom designs for different tribes.
Yeah.
So there are certain styles which are associated with different indigenous nations, and they still sometimes use them for special occasions, like as gifts of honor to diplomats and stuff like that. So they really have an interesting history, very interesting history.
Yeah.
But I don't know about and we know they've done tartan. We know that they have access to historical tartan data, but they're not somebody you could have weave cloth for a kilt. They don't do that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and they're more of a vertical business
They
model.
are a vertical business.
Yeah.
Yep.
Vertical business model for those. Basically, it's they create the thing and then sell direct to the consumer versus go through a bunch of different middlemen kind of thing.
Yep.
So yes, there are some, but it's difficult to like find a hen's teeth. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Mack.
All right, so we have Colton asking, how is the expansion coming with the shop? Haven't seen an update in a while.
Expansion is pretty much done. The pretty much we have a little bit more studio space, so we're hopefully planning on doing something as a secondary background in the studio here. We have a new IT area. We have a new photography room, which Adam is, I'm sure, happy about getting out of that little closet that he was in for photography stuff. And then downstairs we have a big new warehouse area. So yeah, it is going. We will at some point have another customer appreciation party kind of thing. So keep an eye on this space, as they say, or watch this space, and we'll do something and have people in and check it all out.
Yep.
Proper like.
Yep. Got to plan that.
Indeed. Yep. Yeah. Because we have nothing else going on ever. Give me another one, Mac. That was quick.
All right. So we have Andy asking, and this may need us to come back. I don't know. We might have to come back and answer this question later. But what is the background info on the ruche tie? Would it be acceptable for semi-formal or formal wear?
Yeah, the ruche tie, for those who don't know, has like a big honking knot there, and it looks like if you're not wearing a higher vest or like a 5-button vest, it looks like a big freaking clown tie. It's Max over there shaking his head.
It's supposed to be
violently.
tucked in. You're not supposed to ever see that.
Exactly. So I don't know the background of it. It's more of a modern fashion.
It's definitely a modern
twist.
thing. What I've always assumed was that they were trying to come up with something that was reminiscent of a Regency era cravat. That's what I think they were trying to do. But they wanted it to be easy to wear and efficient and look different from a bow tie. So if you're getting married in Scotland and you're renting your outfit and you don't want to go jabot because that's weird and too frou-frou for you as a modern, young
Lacy,
Scottish
froofy.
person.
Yeah.
But you don't want a bow tie because that doesn't look traditional enough to you somehow, or it's boring, and you want to have a color match. They invented the ruche tie. I get the impression it is entirely a higher industry invention. I mean, because it's not like you tie it. It's pre-made. You just clip it on. Do I own one? Yes. Have I worn it once in a while just as a lark? Yes. Guilty. But they are, they're definitely a modern thing and just kind of odd. And I think they're just supposed to be something different that you could sell for rental.
Now I'm picturing you as a Highland wearer Chippendale with a ruche tie and no shirt on, and sorry to put that in people's heads. It's in my own. I had to get it out. You're welcome. You're welcome. No, ruche ties are not great. They're a fashiony thing. My guess on it, my take on it is that in 20, 30 years, it's gonna be very dated. It's going to be of a time. So it's not going to be something that sticks around forever. It's not classic enough of a line.
Yeah.
Mac,
Do you think something new would replace it, or it would just
the bolo tie?
I was going to say clan crest bolo tie. Big giant clan crest right here.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. Remember that bat and taking you out back?
What?
No,
please.
No, I don't.
Now I'm going to make one. I should make a Stuart clan bolo tie.
No.
I totally can.
I know you can. You should not.
I've got bolo tie making stuff at home already.
Bolo tie and making stuff.
Well, yeah, I got the cordage and I got the backing and.
Come on down to Eric's Bolo Tie Emporium.
I don't appreciate your attitude, sir.
Well,
Anyway,
don't care.
how much you want to bet? That could be. Wouldn't that be funny if that was it?
now if you could weave the tartan into the
Well, I mean, you could braid the cordage so it would at least be a couple of the colors in your tartan.
Okay. Now I'm going to like a Rastafarian like dreadlocks with like the beads of the colors of the tartan in the hair. No.
Just use beads.
No.
We'll just make it a necklace instead of a bolo tie.
There we go.
I was thinking you could have like the clan clan plant badge, and maybe part of the badge as the finials, the toggles on the end of the bolos. Kind of round it out that way.
No. Here's where I'm going with it. No bow tie, no ruche tie. Matter of fact, open collar, chest hair coming out, big gold chain. We're gonna mix. Never mind. I'm not gonna say what cultures, but we're gonna no. Shouldn't do that either.
Well, there we go. Flava Flav clan crest necklace.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was going that direction too.
Clock face on the clan crest.
Now you have to do your Flava Flav impression.
Flava Flav. No, I'm gonna blow out the mic. Kristen's screaming at me over there.
So I don't care. I'm gonna make one. Any of you guys out there want to join me?
Well, there's already a +1 for bolo tie with Grand Canyon tartan.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. I rescind all Grand Canyon tartans. Everyone has to send it back.
Nope.
Just so it can't exist.
Ain't gonna happen.
Nope. All right. That was you, Eric. Deliver us from this rush hour.
Aw. I was having fun. All right.
Do one more, then we'll do the
It's
middle
that
of
time
the show.
already.
Yes,
It's almost
sir.
middle time.
Okay, Bill Marshall asks, in terms of tailored kilt, which is more historical, a 5-yard or an 8-yard?
Which is more historical, 5-yard or 8-yard?
Yes.
Indeed.
Actually.
Yeah, yardage of kilts when they from the great kilt through the fila beg or fila more down to the fila beg, meaning the half kilt, was a lower yardage kilt. It wasn't a thing. You didn't need that much cloth. You just needed some pleats. So 4-yard kilts were going beyond the great kilt. So when you started with the half kilt or the tailored kilt, the smaller bit, they started off as a lower yardage kilt. So 4 yards. They kind of played around with pleating styles. That's where the Can You See pleating came from. It was around that kind of time frame. It was the fixtures that attached the kilt or didn't attach the kilt have evolved over time in the same way that the amount of yardage that goes into a kilt evolved over time, and pleating patterns evolved over time from kind of hodgepodge pleat to whatever the hell you want.
We really don't care.
Yeah. To pleating to the stripe, then pleating to the full set. So it's the more cloth you put into the kilt, the more options you have with things. So the most traditional, meaning a couple hundred years ago, was less yardage and pleating to the haphazard. I think I said recently in a video.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I was going to second that. Basically, it's there's a lot of experimentation once the Highland revival suit became a thing. So again, we're talking like Regency period through early Victorian, that basically people were just still trying to figure out what's the best way to make this and make it look good on a variety of different bodies. And every tailor in every town was trying something a little different, which is why you have some of the very strange specimens you have like in the National Museum. So the 8-yard was a later evolution. I think we've said like mid to late 19th century, because they figured out the best ways to do it, and they quickly realized we can make this look even cooler by adding more fabric, so you get more of a swish. You give it more body and give it more, uniformity and give it just substance
And pleat it to the actual set.
And so that it was a refinement, and it was definitely one of those, as we so often say, Victorian things that came about. So from that standpoint, less yardage, it is more ancient of days. But the 8 yard is also kind of old. I mean, we're talking 150 years.
Yeah, but
So.
the first kilt did not come out from the mist and come down from the
formed.
mount exactly as it is now. Like all fashions, all these things have evolved over time, and there's been different stepping stones along the way. The great kilt to the the fil-a-mor, to the fil-a-beg, to the tailored kilt, to the to playing around with pleating patterns, to playing around with all these different parts of the kilt, to no belt loops, to smaller belt loops, to the bigger belt loops for sporran straps, and it's all these things have evolved over time.
And now you got pockets.
Yeah.
What have we done?
So what is more historical? It depends on where you want to point to on the timeline as your area of history you want to emulate.
Mm-hmm.
What has kind of been codified now for a lot of Highland dress is the peak is like, early 1900s. So 1900s to 1920s, 30s.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it kind of solidified and stuck there. And that's what we think of as traditional now. But there was a whole other spunky
load of noodles.
Spunky load of noodles, a whole different can
Before
of
that.
worms that existed before the 1920s as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, indeed. All right, we are at the halfway point of the show. So, some of you may have seen a new tartan released on February 28th. Some of you may even notice that one of us here is wearing said tartan. And we did a little viddy in support of this tartan, our new Purple Mountain Majesty. High above the horizon, where the earth meets the sky, lies a realm of pure, untouched beauty. A place where nature's majesty unfolds in breathtaking splendor. The Rocky Mountains. We're coming right back, I promise. Eric left for a minute, but we're going to play the video again because there's. High above the horizon, where the earth meets the sky, lies a realm of pure, untouched beauty. A place where nature's majesty unfolds in breathtaking splendor. The Rocky Mountains. Every thread of our new Purple Mountain Majesty tartan tells a part of their story. White, for the pristine snow that caps the peaks year-round. 2 shades of marled gray depict the layers of rock that form the backbone of this ancient mountain range. 3 shades of purple echo regal sunsets that paint the mountains and the sky in hues of amethyst, lilac, and violet. And navy blue for the deep, clear mountain lakes that reflect the heavens above. The Rockies are a paradox. They challenge us to push our limits and seek out new horizons, yet they impart a sense of tranquility that only nature can provide. The Purple Mountain Majesty tartan is our tribute to the beauty, the wonder, and the serenity of the Rocky Mountains. I'm wearing the same exact shirt and kilt. We recorded that
And
video
you recorded this morning. It was
15 minutes ago. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, Adam was
crazy
very,
harsh.
very fast at editing that. Yes, so that is our Purple Mountain Majesty tartan. We hope you enjoy it. It's one of those where it's part of our America 250 collection, obviously. It's one of those where I wanted to play around with purple, color that I don't think, a lot of people really, really like purple. And there's not enough purple in tartans. So it was one that I hope I did it justice. I hope enough people, dig on it, playing with the multi-shades of purple. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Yes, sir. I like it.
Fair. It's good
No, I
thought.
think it has a subtlety that I like. It's got kind of a moodiness that does remind me of mountainous areas I've been in, which I like. It's hard to capture the entire spirit of any mountain range, frankly. So I think when you try to focus more on like sunset or sunrise, you kind of have to narrow your parameters because it changes a lot depending on where the sun is and what the shadows are like. What time of year it is. So I think it's a really nice balance.
Yeah, it feels like a wintry, sunsetty.
Yeah, it's
vibe
calm.
to it,
It's
yeah.
calmer. Like Isle of Skye is the usual purple tartan people point to. It's beautiful tartan, but this is more sedate.
Yeah,
Which I like. It's a bit more sophisticated in a way.
yeah. And there's not actually a lot of purple in Isle of Skye.
Not as much as you think. It just
I
has
know.
that vibe.
Yeah, it feels more purple than it is. And Isle of Skye is a beautiful tartan, for the record.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best.
One of the things I wanted to, we've been playing around with the gradient effect in different tartans. This one, I played around with it a little bit, but not too much. I don't want to, I wanted it to kind of feel like they all blended together, but they all stood out enough on their own, the different shades of purple.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. So there's a little bit of gradient in the gray, but in the two different shades of gray, but it's, I wanted it to feel like you got all three different shades of purple in there. So, yeah. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments. How do you feel about the Isle of Skye tartan? And let's do this. Question of the day. What colors... Let's all touch the screen. What colors would you like to see more of in tartans? Which colors are underused, or what color palettes? Let me know in the comments. We'll come back to this at the end of the show. And or how do you feel about the Purple Mountain Majesty? Mac, has anyone made any comments about the tartan and or video and or stuff?
You got a 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Best purple tartan since Isle of Skye. As a Colorado resident and lover of purple, I definitely plan on getting this tartan. Here comes the purple. 10 out of 10. And somebody they can't believe you named the whole mountain range after yourself. There was a nod to these guys over here. They love the adding the star piece at the end. Makes them happy. It's another comment is you guys did this tartan justice. Really glad we are adding purple to purple options. Now we need to add a pink tartan to the 250 collection.
The one thing I just thought of that I will say is when we sat back in the original meetings talking about like all the different tartans we wanted to do and kind of whittled down the different things that we could, the motifs that we could use for different tartans.
Yeah.
Purple Mountain almost didn't make it. It was one of those. It was like, okay, fine. Let's do something purple just to do something a little bit different with it potentially.
Yeah.
And then when we did the show back in July where we talked about, we had the original trailer video where we released it and we asked the question, okay, what tartan are people most excited for? And it was like more people said, like double the number of people said Purple Mountain versus like the next closest one.
Yeah.
I felt this sudden sinking feeling like, Oh shit! I really,
No pressure.
I'm not a purple guy.
pressure.
I'm not someone that like has ever used purple in the tartan that I've designed. But now I felt this sudden amount of pressure on my shoulders of, you better not screw this one up. And I was just like, oh, what have I done?
Oh, damn.
I've awoken the purple beast. So
Purple tartan eater.
Yes, I'm pleased so far with the response. No one has really said like, "Wow, you really botched that one, dude." I expect that response for everything I do, but no one really came at me for just botching it entirely. So I'm pleased that people who like purple seem to appreciate the tartan for what it is. So I'm hoping that it continues to have that response.
I will say this past week we did a lot of some of the pre-orders that came in.
Yeah.
We did at least
first few.
The first
Yeah.
few, and some of the production room loved it because they love purple. Others were just kind of meh on it, but it kept growing on them as it went throughout. There's just like Casey was like, I actually kind of really like this one now. So
yeah, some
It
of
happens a lot.
Yeah, some of the America 250 designs have been sleepers. Is how I'll describe it. Where I'll design it and do it and be like, okay, yeah, I've gotten it to a point where I think it's good, and then I get the cloth and I'm like, okay, it's growing on me a little bit, and then by the time I get the kilt made up for the video and stuff, I'm like, I kind of like this one. I really do dig it more than I thought I was gonna.
I think EPU hits that.
Yes.
I think that's one that is. I'm starting to see a little pickup in orders for it. But
Yep.
It's one that I think now people are starting to see it out there a little bit. It's starting to.
Grand Canyon, same thing. It was
Yeah.
one of those where I designed it, I did it, and I think here's what I say to Mac is like when the cloth gets in, like I'm gonna wait to tell Mac, okay, do I want a 5-yard kilt in it or an 8-yard kilt in it for the video? Like how much do I really like it? And when the Grand Canyon came in, I was all set to do a 5-yarder. I'm like, no, I think I want an 8-yarder in it. I think I really like this one. So that's there's some of them that are growing on me more than others. So yeah.
There's an underlying problem with a lot of these, which never really occurred to me before with tartans that are being made by the mills and stuff. But designing these and seeing them come through and everything is trying to get them to look right in photography. It's become more and more of a problem. It's like these designs, the colors that you have to work with and the gradients that you've been playing with and everything. There's a richness to the designs that, and this probably goes for other tartan designers too, but the pictures just do not capture it. They really don't. So I've had a couple where they've been on your screen or we've gotten the CAD drawing and I'm just like, yeah, okay. And then when it comes and you actually see the light playing off it, I was just like, oh, damn. So that's, I mean, it really comes down to sometimes a swatch is a really good idea.
Yeah, I learned long ago when he would show CADs of tartans that were coming, and I'd be like, and I see it, I'm like, dang it, why didn't I get on this one?
Right. So the next, I know what Leave No Trace is going to be like, but the one with all the speculation.
No, not Leave No Trace. You mean Back to Nature?
Back to Nature.
It's like, whoa,
Yes.
whoa.
I know that. I was saying that's right. We'll fix it in editing. County Fair is the one I think everybody's speculating on now. That's going to be it's going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. I have to design that one.
Yeah.
I have to get on that.
Yeah.
Jillian and I were playing around a little bit with it. Or she was playing around, and I was kind of thinking about the designs that she brought forth, so to speak. So it's that one's the one that I'm like I could go 100% this way or that way. It's going to be an odd one, but yeah, okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, did I derail your thought? Sorry.
No, but the lighting with the tartans 100%. That's why when we're playing around with the designs now, it's like for the fabric. I love the one photo Adam took of the fabric where we kind of squished it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it plays with like not in the video, but the fabric image on our website has the fabric kind of played, so you see more shadow and light. And it's more 3-dimensional. Or when we shoot the videos, of this one, we started with it inside, then walk outside to show it in different lighting conditions. A lot of people have been asking for that, and I think it helps people kind of understand the range, so to speak, of how they'll look in different lights.
Yeah.
So that's a problem with all tartans, but it's heard, so to speak.
But it's the power of tartan also.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you can't knock it.
Agreed. All right. Mr. Mac did the last one, or was it you? one of
no,
you.
that was me. Or no.
Okay.
Wait.
Yes, it was you.
Yes. Eric, do one.
Sir, yes, sir. All right, David Barr. Howdy. The current hot trend. This is perfect for this. The current hot trend in tartan design seems to be gradient style, with different colors blending into each other, a la the Appalachian folklore tartan and several of your America 250 collection designs.
Oh.
But do you see this design trend continuing, or do you think we're going to go back to a more traditional style with sharply defined color breaks, like this?
Yeah.
Is this gradient stuff just flash in the pan? This is what your kids today are into.
I think it's both. I think it's adding another arrow to the quiver.
Are you a politician?
No, it is, but it is both. I think you can like if you look at House of Edgar's 1819 collection and their Hebridean collection, they've incorporated a lot of the things, and Loch Heron has done a few different ones where there's a little bit more of a gradient in their fashion stuff. So I think there's room for both. There's no reason to say yay or nay. It's a sure. But I think it can't be everyone all the time. I think it doesn't have to be used sparingly, but if all tartans started doing it all the time now, like if you're on the Scottish Register of Tartans email list and every single tartan had that coming through that was registered, I think it would get boring because it would be just the new trend in the thing. Yeah. So I like that it exists. I like that it is an option, but I don't think every tartan will necessarily need it. The one that we're doing next, the Back to Nature tartan, it's the one that, had you asked me 6 months ago, a year ago, when we first came up with the idea, what do you want to do with this one? And my original concept was, okay, I want to do like a camouflage-y type of thing. And I had specific colors in mind that I wanted to use. That's the one that I would have said, 8 months ago, Rocky would have said, yep, it's going to be a ton of gradient. It's going to be a camouflage looking one. It's going to be fuzzy looking and all that. But I ended up not doing it because I think we've done a few of those in a row and I wanted to do something a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And when the rubber met the road, I didn't think it needed it. I think the colors can complement each other well enough, and the colors can blend well enough that you don't need, 6 different shades of green and 4 different shades of brown and 6 different shades of red. You don't always need that. You can play a little bit more subtly within it. There's still some, but not a ton. Yeah. Like if you look at Blackwatch with the double tram lines and the single tram lines in the navy section, you could almost call that a gradient from black to navy to a couple different, ticks of black to the navy section. So it's always kind of been there to lesser degrees. We're just playing with it a little bit more in the same way that like flannel shirts have played with it for years and years and years. But I don't think you want to do it all the time.
That's where my brain was going, is that in some ways, if the market shifts, it'll be because people are seeing more gradient tartan or tartan-esque designs in regular Saxon wear, in flannel shirts and stuff. And they're going to be like, it kind of looks like my L. Bean shirt. Doesn't feel Scottish enough to me. And then things will shift a little bit. But yeah, I think there's a balance. There's definitely a balance to be struck. And we think so much more about designing these things than people did back in the old days. We say that a lot, but you're starting off with the colors, right? Yeah. I want to use this color and this color and this color. And some of them will naturally lend themselves to, a gradient would work really well where I have this green and this gray and blue. And other times it's just like, nah, I want this to pop. So sometimes the colors, I think, guide your process also. Or do you want it to feel exciting because it's like something for a band, or an organization, versus something that is naturalistic because it's symbolic of a mood or a place, like Grand Canyon or this one. So I think that guides your thinking these days also. So there's just going to be more is more. It's not going to stop. It's just going to be people do different things based on what their inspiration for the tartan is. Yeah,
and there's always been, fashion to some degree has always influenced Highland wear. So you have When, for instance, I'll use the Lost Tartan from Wilson's Bannock from the Genesis collection. That one has a lot of brown in it. And the reason that one has a lot of brown in it is because it was a popular color at the time when the tartan was designed. So Wilson's Bannockburn included brown in the tartan, where there wasn't a lot of brown in tartans up to that point. If you look at the Ogilvy of Airlie tartan, which has kind of does have a gradient effect. There's 1,000 different changes over in the tartan. It's jokingly called the Weaver's Nightmare because there are so many changes in colors in the warp and in the weft of that specific design. So that was potentially a fashiony kind of thing of, hey, let's do something different and play with a ton of different color changes in it. Similar to the Royal Archers.
Royal Company.
Yeah, Royal Company of Archers tartan has a lot of changeover, a lot of different colors in it. So fashion will kind of bleed over into Highland wear and into tartan design to some degree. And I think, what we are doing now, what House of Edgar's doing now, what the mills are doing now, is a little bit of an extension of that process, of that thing. Yeah. Mac.
So do you think now looking back on this in 30, 40 years, we'll be able to go back and say, all right, well, this was the popular thing at this time. This was the it thing. Being able to find a piece of Gothic romance tartan and go, yep, that was done in this time period, similar to the popularity of other things with the blackout buckles and blackout pieces where they were hot at this particular time and then they just disappeared.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. I think that it will I agree with you, I think that people will be able to say, the Shadow Tartans, they were of the late 2000 aughts and 2010s. That was the prime period for it. The Saltire Kilt and the Rampant Lion in Tarja type thing, that was of the 2010s. So you'll be able to, in 50 years, say, yes, this came from that period. It was a flash in the pan, and it kind of went away. I think the tartan designs that stick around of the gradient effect kind of thing I think they have a little bit more staying power than the black thing. I don't think it's going to be as much of a flash in the pan. I think it's just going to be kind of added to the design options, if you will, for people designing tartans. And I think because of the meanings that people want to put into things, I think it has a little bit more staying power than the Shadow Tartan Black thing did.
Yeah, I mean, there's no story behind it. As we've said before, the story helps sell the product. Yeah. And you put that story behind it, it's going to have legs to stand for a while.
Story or mood.
Yeah.
To put it vaguely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a thought that the next fashiony thing that might take off will be really wildly asymmetrical designs, like the Commonwealth Games one from last year, where it's basically just two stripes over here in a corner and then nothing.
Huge.
That was a huge set, also. But you see what I mean? I'm wondering if
we have had a few custom weaves of late that have been a few, meaning I know of two or three that were asymmetrical,
intentionally asymmetrical. Were they asymmetrical because it was just kind of a weak design? No offense to whoever designed it, or was it asymmetrical like I want an empty space here and I want this?
That would have to be an Ian answer on that one. I don't know. I just know. I know what gets put in front of us.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's a possibility.
Yeah,
because it would look very unique for a while.
I think if that happens, it's going to be a flash in the pan.
I agree.
Period. I don't think that would have staying power like a gradient thing. That's pleasing to the eye to some people. Some people don't like it. Some people like more traditional, boxy, squarish, Wallace-esque kind of tartans where there's clear borders on every single thing. But I think playing around with the borders is playing within the rules versus something like a huge set with an asymmetrical white stripe halfway across the apron is kind of breaking a rule in a way that would be more of a fashion angle to break it than this, which plays more within the rules.
Yeah.
So I think the potential for gradient has more staying power than other flash in the panty type things. So I'm hoping it does. I don't think every tartan should be a gradient. Nope. And I love but I love having the option to make it a gradient should the artist choose or the designer choose to make it a gradient.
What about taking a traditional clan tartan that's relatively simple and then augmenting it with some gradation? You know what I mean?
Depends on how, like Wallace, how do you make that a gradient?
I'm not saying it would work with all of
I
them,
know.
but, I'm just imagining, like, I don't know.
Stewart?
Shadow Stewart, Shadow Campbell. I mean,
It would almost have to be a simpler design, though.
it would be.
Because you would have, like, if you did Wallace and then did shades of gray to black and shades of, like, if it was Wallace hunting, shades of green and then shades of gray to black.
Yeah.
Fine, you could maybe do that.
Yeah.
But if you picked something like Stewart that already has, like, 6 or 7 colors in it, you couldn't add a gradient because then you'd be adding 8, 10, 12, 14 colors, and the mills wouldn't do
What
it.
about McLeod dress?
McLeod dress.
You see, because you got the black and the yellow. They're both very strong. Building a gradient into that design.
Yeah. Okay. So a spark slash
Should be a spark
McLeod
like-
dress,
Exactly.
bastardization,
Exactly.
amalgamation. Okay.
It looked like a raid warning sign.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean,
Indeed.
I did something similar when I'm still messing around with the poppies tartan, where I took the McRae and tweaked that around because I wanted to trying to give it a little bit more of using the McRae as a base.
Yeah.
And then tweaking colors obviously as well, but using that to create like the feel, the sense of chaos and of what war and the kind of
Fog of war kind of a thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I kind of took that and then built out from there. So I'm not necessarily done playing around with that tartan, but it's one that it feels better going that route with something like that.
Okay.
Well, I'm here for it. Anything World War I, please continue your work.
Indeed.
I mean, yeah, the Spirit of the Dragon tartan, of course, is not going to be gradated because I want it to work for cosplay. But that
Yes. I hope that helped.
was a good.
All right.
That was a fun question.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it was fun.
Thank you
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
one. That was cool. Wait, was that me?
We meandered the hell out of that one. That was you.
That
Mac.
was me, Mac. It's your turn.
All right.
all you.
So Catherine is asking, what is our favorite Irish tartan?
Favorite Irish tartan. So you can do
There's a couple.
counties. There's a few Irish name tartans. Which one did I design? The Irish name tartan.
O'Brien?
No, not O'Brien. It's something.
I thought he did an O'Brien.
No, O'Brien already exists. It wasn't me.
Yeah, so then maybe that was...
OF. It starts with a OF. Flaherty? I don't know. I did an Irish
It's been a while since we
Yeah.
did that one.
So Irish county tartans, Irish districts or provinces, the Ireland's Irish national tartans, Irish county crest tartans,
Crest tartans, which
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know about anymore.
a few of the Irish names.
I
Yes,
know.
Mac
I
has
know.
one on.
Hold on.
All right.
But it's an artifact.
Yes.
It is.
All right, Mac. What will be your favorite Irish tartan? We'll start with you.
So I go to County Down.
You
That's-
would.
I know, and I have. I bought it. I bought it. It's mine.
Mac is in fact the star of the County Down.
Yes,
Exactly.
indeed. The brown star of County Down. I'm stopping, Mac. So County Down.
County Down.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. There's one of the county crests that is that in Mayo up there on the corner above Eric.
No, that one's County Derry.
Is that Derry? Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
one that that definitely grew on me as it was. sitting
Yeah,
there.
as
And
bright as it is, the one that's directly above Eric's head.
The orangish
I
one.
can't. Yeah, the orangish one right there. It's Derry next to Donegal.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yes, that one. Okay, so County Derry was good, and what was the other one? That was like the darker version of that. Was it Leitro? No, I don't know. But yeah, that one was good. Or Leash, I forget.
There
The
was
County
quite a
Crest
few of
was-
the county crest.
Yeah.
Once we were
Once
able
we
to
muted
tweak it
them.
a little bit.
Yes, once we muted
there
them.
was a lot of the county crests that I thought were really good.
Okay.
But down would be what is currently being woven. Down.
Yes,
would
County
be,
Down. Straight up County Down. Okay. Eric, your Irish tartan selection?
Well, I know what you're gonna say, so
I have
won't-
two that I'm going to say.
Okay.
Can't pick just one.
I've definitely liked Leitrim,
Son of a bitch, that was my other one.
and honestly, Mayo.
Yeah. Mayo's a very, very popular one.
Just
Yeah.
like the tones.
It's
Just
a
like the
good one.
tones.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
It really is good. Really is a good one. A lot of House of Edgar's Irish County ones
County
are
one,
very
yeah,
muted.
I think very few of those were weak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Fermanagh is good.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Fermanagh. It's got like that lavendery shade of blue.
Yeah, I like that.
I know.
So,
I know. Cork is good. It's very similar in vibe to Mayo.
Yes.
County Donegal's good.
Mm-hmm.
My favorites are probably Leitrim. County Leitrim.
Which I've
Yep.
learned to really like because I got
As-
that kilt.
Yep. And if I want to feel Irish without feeling on the nose Irish, I'd say Wexford.
Wexford.
Because I'm not a
Yep.
big fan of the Kelly green Irish national, bold green color. But County Wexford still gets in, the green, white, and gold in there without being too on the nose.
Right.
It's got a muted it's like a muted Irish flag. So I'd say County Wexford is probably be my go-to.
Yeah.
For an Irish feeling one.
I agree. Completely agree.
Yes.
Forgot about Ulster.
I was gonna say I do
Ulster,
really I
oh,
love
yeah.
Ulster weathered.
Yeah.
But
See, and I
I don't
like.
consider that. I consider that an Irish tartan, but not an Irish tartan.
Yeah, I do, but
So-
I like the
That's Irish.
one that was it.
Scots Irish.
I think Lochern only does an 11 ounce. The Tanner one with the orange.
Yeah. It's tan and brown. Yes.
Yeah.
I think Dalgleish did it
Yeah.
does it in 16 ounce.
Yeah.
But Lochern does it in the 11 ounce. Yeah.
Like I like that version of it. I like the brown, the regular brown version, and
Yeah.
and that the later tan. But
Indeed.
I-
Yeah. There's a lot of good Irish tartans. Yeah.
yeah,
Now
obviously-
they're for the most part they are newer.
yes.
They are not old,
Right.
crazy old historical examples. Barring or except for the Ulster. And then there's a few Irish
Murphy.
Yeah. Tara
That's
Murphy.
Tara Murphy.
Yeah. So that's an older one as well.
It's electric.
Boogie Woogie Woogie. Yes. So, yeah. What is your favorite Irish tartan? Put it in the comments. All right. That was you? Or was that Mac?
Mm-hmm.
That was Mac.
That was
so,
Mac.
Eric.
Fermanagh makes me think of the ocean. I think that's one of the reasons I like it. There's a nautical vibe to it for me.
Okay. That's fair.
All right. From the Tube of Views, Brian from Milwaukee asked us, are two-tone flashes a thing? For instance, the front away from your leg flag being one color and then the back flag behind it, this the longer back one, being a different color. Like, could you do a two-tone flash like that where different color?
Yeah. So, let's some flashes
Sarcastic
from some
Vulcan.
companies, like if you get a pair of tartan flashes, you have two individual flags. These are good flags. Boom, boom. And so, like our economy flashes have two individual flags.
Yeah.
The premium flashes and like the Loch Heron wool flashes have two flags, but then there's I'm going to do it this way. Two flags. So they kind of sit, boop boop, and the back they have like a back part and a front part. So in that way, I think yes. No, they're not a thing. Let's just start there. No, not a thing. I've seen some kilt makers. I've seen a lot of different ways to do flashes. I mean, I've seen companies make tartan flashes on the bias. Hate it. I wouldn't do it. I've seen companies do, the bottom of a set of flashes. They fringe it versus a chevron cut. It's okay. I'm not a big fan, but it's fine. Okay. I've seen some kilt makers will do, they'll have the two individual flags. One flag will be this part of the tartan, another flag will be a different part of the tartan. So like for this one, like a purple flag and a gray flag, for instance, to make each leg have two different pieces of the tartan on it. I'm not a big fan of that. What he's talking about is sort of the the front part being red and the back part being blue or something like that. I could see it. I could see it working. It's not done. There would be, and if it was tried to be done, there'd be too many different color combinations.
A lot of combinations
that you'd have to kind of do. But I could see, like, if somebody said, hey, money's no object. I have to have the front be light blue and the back be navy blue. We could take 2 sets of lock hair and flashes, cut them apart, and make it work, make it happen, to make the thing exist. But it would be essentially you'd be buying 2 sets of flashes plus paying labor to have somebody actually cut them apart and put it back together for you. So it could exist. It doesn't really exist. If you're crafty, then sure, order 2 sets of flashes and play around with it. But I don't know, Mac, what do you think?
When you're first talking about it, like in my head, I didn't have it that way. I had it as like a blue flash and a gold flash,
side by side.
Yeah, side by side.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I don't know about that.
No.
But then when you said about, then when I realized it was front and back. I mean, this kind of goes back to our earlier conversation with the garter ties and how tying them differently and how unique they could be. Is kind of, it's another unique thing.
We'll save that question for later. I want to have that be its own thing. But what I'm thinking of is the rare occasions where somebody says like I think you did, like you had the red stripe or red fringe, on a black watch kilt or something like that. I think that could be a neat way to play with it and kind of accent that. So if you had a red fringe on a different color, different tartan kilt, maybe having, but there's like, let's say navy blue in the kilt. Then you have red in the back and navy blue in the front to kind of pick up and, as the little nod to the red that's over here, as the accent. Mm-hmm. It could be neat.
I mean, and you've seen the other set of flashes where it's kind of like, I guess they're more of some of the military ones where they like loop down too.
The little flaggy looking thing.
Yeah, like this. It also kind of reminds me of the idea of the two-tone gilt hose. It's kind of along those lines. You're just pulling out
different colors,
accents out of the tartan.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't do two-tone flash with two-tone gilt hose because then you're playing around with it too much, and again, there's no simplicity in the outfit. You're trying to have everything be the standout accent, and it's too much. But Eric, do you have any thoughts on it?
What if you did flashes where you have the back one is the chevron and the top layer is the loop? That's my demonstration of that. But the top layer is tartan. So you have tartan and then one of the main colors of the tartan. Now I'm really getting
I could
weird
see
with
it as long as the back color is one of the colors that's in the tartan, so it
or
feels
black.
like you're accenting it.
Or just
I think
black,
you'd
so the
want
tartan
that-
pops.
Well, kind of similar to what he was saying about how I did that, my red hackle with that red stripe in there. By doing and maybe making them just a skosh wider in the back, so it gives like a red outline or a colored outline around it.
A drop shadow.
Yeah, but you would need a backing in that back flash to keep it stiffer.
Yes.
So it would need to have some sort of weight behind it to keep it.
Or stitch witchery, like the stitchy gluey stuff, the front to the back piece to keep it a little bit stiffer, especially if it's tartan flashes to a back piece. Now I'm getting curious.
And then I'm going to take cufflinks and then grind down the post and just turn it into a pin that goes, or a lapel pin, put it right in the middle of the flash. So I have clan crest on each.
No, just
that'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Or you put take that cufflink in, put a buttonhole in the hose, so you can just buttonhole the right. You can just hook it right in there.
That's great.
You people.
Perfect.
No. All right. I hope that helps. That was at least a little bit amusing. No buttonholes in your hose. All right. Is that you, Eric? Or is that Mac?
That was me, although I do want to know if you want to skip to the...
We'll do that one next after
one,
Max.
yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
All right, so we have our good pal Gig is on here watching
Gig.
today. He's asking, are there any new PV tartans coming down the pipeline?
Any new PV tartans coming down the
Yes.
pipeline?
No.
Keep an eye. Keep an eye out. Yes.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Watch this space, Gig. You may or may not see something. Did we decide April 1st or April 2nd? You'll see something.
We thought it'd be fun to make it April 1st, even though people might think it was a joke.
Yes.
But
Yes. Keep an eye out. We're always trying to play with, refreshing the line and PV tartans and things like that, and seeing what sells and doesn't sell. There's a couple that we discontinued because we were making room for new things. So yes, we'll be playing with at least one new tartan, and as we get further into our America 250 collection, we may look at other new tartans that would be potentially available in polyviscose. Not yet, but soon as things progress.
in the fullness of time.
Yes, I'm trying to be cryptic, but I'm not. Okay, too tired. All right, give me another one, Mac, if you have another one.
All right, so we've had a lot of questions on waistcoats here in the comments of late. So we do have one asking about waistcoats, lapel or no lapel. Thoughts on that?
Okay.
We also had somebody asking, could one get a tweed window pane that would stripe would match would? Could one get a tweed window pane that would stripe to the main color of the tartan? So similar to how Eric's wearing there.
Yeah.
And then questioning on how to find your size. So that may be a little bit more heading to a site.
Yeah, how to find the size, I would say, drop us an email. We can walk you through that or give us a call. Can you match a tweed wooden pane to the kilt? Sure. Depending on the tweed, depending on the tartan. So in Eric's case, I think they did a good job with the red there matching, or at least toning well or close enough.
It is not a perfect match, but
it's not a perfect match, but it's a minor enough color that it does well. You know what really grinds my gears?
You know what really grinds my gears?
Window pane tweeds that the warp and the weft are two different colors of period. I hate it. Even this one, which used to be my vest, the vertical and the horizontal. Can you punch in, Adam, or no? I don't know. Get Adam close up, or Eric close up video here. So the red this direction is a darker red, and across is a slightly pinker red.
Oh my God!
You can tell it a little bit in there. Mm-hmm. It drove me batshit crazy. Sorry, I'm cursing. It drives me nuts. But it's just how tweeds are. That's a very traditional tweed. It's what they do, and and there are also plenty of tweeds that'll be like a tan stripe this way and a green stripe that way, or whatever.
Yep.
So it is very, very traditional. It's just my own personal thing. If you're gonna have two shades of color that close, that red and that red, just use the same red.
Use the same red.
It's more cost effective. Come on now.
Couldn't you just use the same red?
I don't even know what the question was anymore. I'm just ranting about the colors.
Lapels versus not lapels.
Lapels versus not
and maybe
lapels.
even square window panes, like perfectly square would be great too.
Don't talk to me about freaking rectangles.
Can I just help you guys get back on track here?
Rectangles, no. Every tartan, every tweed should be a freaking square, not a rectangle. It hung, drawn, and quartered. Yes. Okay.
Are you going to start ranting about Welsh tartans now?
Don't get me started. So, yes, you can happily do window panes. They're great. It's wonderful. Yes, but finding one with the right color, because generally speaking, tweeds are not designed to go. Window pane tweeds are not designed to go with colors in tartan kilts.
Right.
So you're kind of at the mercy of what the mills produce. Now, there are a bunch of different tweed mills. There's Lovett Mill, Martin Mills does some tweeds, Lochcarron does a few tweeds. There's Bateman and Ogden. There's Johnston's. There's a lot of different mills that do tweed, not tartan. So there are different things that, different companies can offer. So there are options, but it's not designed on purpose. It's more of a happenstance where I have this particular tartan. Here's the different tweeds. Ooh, this one happens to match really well. Great. But it's not every single tartan that you're going to get that with. Now, lapels on a tweed or no lapels on a tweed. How do you feel about lapels on a tweed vest? Jacket. Jacket should have
I
lapels.
must say, I'm a little split on it. I actually like, if I'm planning on wearing the vest by itself, I like the lapels. If I'm planning on wearing the vest / waistcoat with a jacket more often, I'll do the acetate back, not the wool cloth back. And second, I'm more likely to go without lapels because I just don't like the double lapel thing that often.
Okay.
I used to, but I've moved away from that. So it's basically, flip a coin though, because I tend to wear vests by themselves much more often than I ever wear a jacket. So most of my vests do have lapels. But yeah, I think it's it looks more substantial when you're wearing it just by itself. I think lapels definitely help a vest look cooler, more finished, if you will, more pseudo suit-like, if you will, when they have the lapels. Just adds a little extra detailing, which is nice.
A little something, something.
A little something, something. And
Indeed.
I have been known to actually put lapel pins on the lapels of a vest, like, my poppy lapel pin that I wear sometimes, things like that, or clan crest pin. So
Yeah, lapel pins are underappreciated thing.
I
I have
agree.
some Scottish ones. I have a Lefroy lapel pin. I have a Thistle. I have an Inverness pin. So yeah, lapel pins are pretty fun. I will say that I do absolutely like lapels on tweed vests. For the double lapel, if you're wearing a jacket with lapels, obviously, I'm not as meh on it. I'm okay with it as well. The one thing I'm going to point out is if I know that I'm going to be wearing a tie with a particular jacket and vest or jacket and waistcoat that is going to be in tweed, I might not want the lapels on it because excuse me for here if I touch your thing, there's the material on the back here. If you're wearing a necktie, that tweed fabric on the back, the back facing of the lapels, ends up grabbing the necktie, and as you kind of walk around and go throughout your day, the necktie ends up kind of like shifting over to the side, and if you don't have a tie bar on,
you need a tie bar
underneath there, you just end up looking disheveled, and you're not even really realizing it. What I always do, it doesn't matter. It could be a plain tie bar or not. I usually actually put it down just below the V on the lapel or on the vest.
the break.
Yeah, just below the break. I'll put a tie bar down there to hold my tie centered because your lapels, the material on the back of the lapels will walk your tie over to the side.
Yep.
So that was my only point to add to that. But yeah, I think lapels on a vest, I agree. Chef's kiss. It adds a little something, a little visual interest.
It's fun
to an otherwise simple type of thing.
Yeah.
But with a jacket, I'm take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very good.
If you're exploring it, get swatches. Always get swatches if you're trying to match a tweed to a tartan.
Yes, I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Was that you or Mac? That was Mac?
That was Mac.
All right, Eric.
That was Mr. Mac. Which brings us to the follow-up to a previous question.
Indeed.
Indeed it does. Back and better than ever. Jordan Elwood asks us, is there any chance you could touch on the differences between flashes versus garter ties? I feel like ties are more casual than flashes, but maybe that's just me. So, what's the difference? What's the deal with flashes versus garter ties?
All right. Warning. This is uber nerd section. Okay. I'm going to go into history, did some research, talk to Peter McDonald. I have my facts. I think straight. We'll see what happens as things come out of my face hole here. So.
And go.
All right. Garter ties versus flashes. So flashes are the two flag things, and garter ties are things, basically a long strip of fabric material that you end up, wrapping around your leg and tying in some kind of bow. So, back in history, the earliest, or one of the earliest examples that we have of garter ties in Highland wear, I'm specifying that, is the painting of Lord Mungo Murray in 1680.
Yep.
I think Adam has a photo. Oh, look at that. He is Johnny on the spot, or he's Lord Mungo Murray on the
There he
spot.
is.
So this is the painting I'm referring to here. And if we zoom in on the actual, the garters that he has on there, they are a woven cloth about 1 meter long, and they are striped. If you look closely at it, they are actually striped. Now, this is how you tied or how you kept your socks up, because socks were actually woven material back then. This is before knitted socks. So you used these long strips of woven material to tie up your garters, to tie your hosiery.
Right.
Now, fast forward, this is essentially the type of thing that was used for quite a long time, and eventually in the, early 1800s, it kind of transitioned from the striped material to more solid color material. So you would have like solid red or solid blue or solid navy or things like that. But with the evolution of it came different ways to make it fancy. So what ended up happening was people would tie, instead of just, wrapping it around and tying a knot, why not make it look nicer? So there was different types of knots, just similar to like how you tie your necktie in a 4-in-hand or a Windsor knot or a half Windsor. There were different ways to tie your garter ties on the side of your leg. So there was more intricate ways to do things. and then from there, it even progressed to people that couldn't tie it, as neatly or as distinctly or, crazy kind of fashion things. People started selling, rosettes that you could actually use separately to tie onto a set of garter ties to give you that look. It's like a zip tie or one of those kind of things, where it's a fake tie that just goes on the side to make it look like you've really spent a lot of time and effort and you were knowledgeable in doing this thing on your leg. Fast forward to, let's say, early 1900s, as elastic has become a thing, has kind of evolved and kind of made its way into Highland wear. That's where people started saying, hey, you know what? Instead of doing all this stuff with the garters on the side and tying, wrapping around all this fabric, now that hose are knit, they're no longer woven material, but they are knit material, knit hose that stretch and fit your leg, but you still need a little bit of support to keep them up. Let's do a piece of elastic, because we're going to fold the top of the hose down over top of these things anyway. But we're just going to put the little flashes down there as a nod to what garter ties were. So it's kind of a nod back to what used to be as it's evolving. Now, fast forward to the 1980s, that kind of time frame where people started playing around with their hosiery in Highland wear and saying like, okay, well, shooting socks, they're similar. They're very, very similar to what you would wear for kilt hose. So people started ordering shooting socks, and what those would come with were knit garter ties. And a lot of times you would buy a pair of shooting socks and it would just kind of come with it. So that's, according to Peter and me, that's our guesses, that's when people started wearing garter ties with Highland wear, was because it was the crossover of shooting socks to Highland wear, which are very, very similar. Shooting socks are typically worn with like +4s. They're a little bit longer, but it's still acceptable. It's in the range.
Right.
Now, my time in Highland wear started in 2003. House of Cheviot, one of the premier kilt hose companies in the Highland wear, they actually started in 2002. And since the beginning of their time, they have always offered both shooting socks, garter tie, shooting socks and garter ties, as well as Highland wear or kilt socks. And then they started seeing, in them offering shooting socks and knit garter ties. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying the right words here. Knit garter ties. Shooting socks and knit garter ties always went together. And they kind of sold, not quite like one-to-one, sock and garter tie, but it was a pretty good, consistent thing that always kind of ticked along for them. When I spoke to them, what they said was they have noticed in the past 8 years or so, so around, let's say, 2015 to 2018, that kind of time frame, they saw a definite uptick in garter ties, the knit garter ties that they offered being sold or being worn with their kilt hose. They have seen a more of a fashiony kind of thing as people ordering garter ties. So it's kind of come back around full circle. The neat thing with the garter ties that are out there now that are knit is they're actually a better solution for wearing with your hose than the original woven garter ties. The original woven garter ties really didn't have any give. It's woven cloth, and it's not woven, and they're doing it on the bias. They're doing it along the warp. So when you tie it around, it's that tight, period, versus a knit. It actually has a little bit of give to it, and the fact that it's knit, it kind of, and the yarns that they're using kind of grab at the kilt hose a little bit, so they help in that way as well.
Right.
So it's kind of a evolution / revolution,
Devolution.
back to the original garter ties. Now people are still folding their kilt hose down over top of them, but it's a nod back to the really, really old thing where it started. So it's something cool and different that I appreciate now for where it came from and the nod to back to where it was and the utilitarian nature of the thing. So it's fun. So there's definitely an evolution with it. So to answer your question directly, which is older? Neither. Woven garter ties are the original thing. Are garter ties more casual than flashes? No, it's just a different thing, a different way to get to the same end, and a different way to kind of play with it in your outfit. So I love the fact that there are options. You don't have to just do tartan flashes. You don't have to just do solid color flashes. You can do garter ties and play with it in a different way. I love watching the evolution of Highland wear, slow as it may be, but people kind of playing with it and adding their own personality, but staying, generally speaking, within the rules. Eric, I'm long-winded. I apologize. It's a pretty damn thorough answer, I hope. But what are your thoughts?
I don't have anything to add. You
Okay.
covered the whole damn thing. Woven fabric garters go back to the Middle Ages. If you know anybody who's in the reenacting community, you may know somebody who's worked with an inkle loom, or even card weaving. It's the thing. Making bands of woven fabric was a very utilitarian thing for centuries. So it's not, it's not to be unexpected.
And I think there's even, I believe, don't quote me because I'm not 100%, I think it's the Scots Guards doublet, or Scots Guards are the ones that still have flashes with stripes on them that one of our suppliers still creates those actual flashes for them.
Huh.
So it's a neat, hangover, if you will, from the original survival. Thank you. From the original garters that were done on those type of old looms and having the stripes on them versus a solid color. Where you look at it today, and I remember getting a sample and being like, "Why are there stripes on this?" But I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense now."
Awesome.
Yeah, because it's a nod to how it used to be. So that is the beauty of Highland wear, is you can be contemporary or historical and have this huge sliding scale in the middle and do it all at the same time, and it's just neat. It's fun to play with it.
Shh,
I'm too excited. Sorry.
Okay, it's all right. It's all right. Deep breath.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for the excuse for us to do a deep dive into stuff. It was fun to look into that one.
Hope I didn't lose too many people with nerding out that much about flashes and garter ties. All right. Very good. Mr. Mack.
All right, so we have Matt from Melbourne here. So I got to get on Aussie.
Yep, they're up. It's early in the
See
morning.
the same person who watched us last month, maybe.
There you go.
Now he's asked me to say this question in my best.
We have
Aussie.
2 fans in Australia.
Yeah, he asked me to say
none.
this question in my best Aussie accent. So, but I cannot.
G'day, Mac.
I cannot bring. I have to watch a few more episodes of Bluey to get this down better. But so he's asking. Can you take a kilt that's been pleated to the set and have it repleated to the stripe, or is it not worth it? And he does have a second question that he wears orthopedic insoles in his shoes, and wear a wider shoe. Is there a type of ghillie that will accommodate for that?
We have a wider ghillie. I don't know if it'll accommodate insoles.
Not orthopedics. Insoles.
Yeah, not orthopedic, depending on how thick they are.
Yeah.
I do have, I've had, arthritis for a long time. I have a pair of ghillie brogues that were like calfskin leather. It's the Comfort Ghillie, which we can get if you really, really need a pair. And I ripped out the insole that was in there and put in a pair of like cushionier insoles for more comfort. Mm-hmm. So you can play around with it, but orthopedics, depending on how thick they are, maybe. What was the other question?
Can you take a kilt that's been pleated to the set and have it repleated to the stripe?
Okay. When you are, short answer, can you take a kilt pleated to the set and then repleat it to the stripe? Short answer is probably not. A properly made 8-yard kilt. I'm going to assume that you have a properly made 8-yard kilt. When you pleat it up, one of the next steps are actually scalloping out all the bulk in the back, in the pleats of the back of the kilt.
Right.
When you stack all those pleats up and have to sew the waistband on the top, it's a freaking blanket. I mean, it's a half-inch to 3/4 inch thick, depending on the weight of the fabric. So it's too much. It's too much cloth in there. So kilt makers will actually scallop out or cut out all of that cloth and then put in horsehair canvas. They'll do steeking along the bottom of the pleats. They'll put in horsehair canvas, tack that in, and then put the lining over top of that. So if you were to take out the lining and the horsehair canvas, you're actually going to see a bunch of cutaways. So if you undo that, it's going to be,
It's a mess.
It's one of those things with like the dolls where you fold up the paper and then you fold it out and all the dolls come out and all cut together holding hands.
Right.
It's
Paper
kind of
dolls.
like that. So you're going to see, if you stretch that all the way back out, you're going to see a bunch of U's at the top of all that cloth. So in a traditional kilt where the material is actually scalloped out, no, you can't do that. In a 5-yard kilt or a kilt where there's a little bit less cloth in it, can you do that? Sure, probably. Here's the rub. It takes a long freaking time to do. It's a very, very labor-intensive process. You're really, really, really have to be careful with the seam ripper, tearing out every single pleat. If you've really done your back tacking well at the bottom of the fell, you're going to get in there and pray to God that you don't put a hole in the fabric, because if you do that, it could be all over. Honestly, and frankly speaking, by the time you get it torn apart and then put back together, the labor cost is essentially double, so you're not really saving anything. At that point, you're better off having 2 kilts or selling one, recouping some of the money and putting that towards the new kilt pleated to the stripe if you want it pleated that way. Yeah. So ultimately, I would say don't try to rip it apart and redo it. Unless there's some kind of like crazy sentimental value to you and you know that it's not scalloped out on the inside, either just learn to like pleating to the set or just sell it and buy a brand new kilt.
Yep.
Eric.
What's his name?
Matt.
Good day, Matt. So I want to go back to talking about the shoes. So if you're going walkabout, you don't want to look like a stupid wallaby, I'll recommend you just stick with the orthopedic shoes. You don't need ghillie brogues. You're not the kind of geezer that's a slave to fashion, are you? So, keep going with the shoes that be comfortable. You gotta stay like you can stand upright, right?
You went Cockney in the middle. That was pretty good. You went Cockney in the middle.
Cockney's where I live. I can't. It's hard, man.
Yes.
It's hard.
Just
really
whatever you
hard.
do, don't have a kangaroo sporn. Period.
In all seriousness,
Somebody had a kangaroo sporn with a tail
At least
on the front.
I tried.
That was too much.
The debt of honor has been paid. I made the sacrifice.
He asked,
He
for
asked.
the record,
He
asked
asked.
for an Australian accent. I like how you said, "Good day, Matt." It's
Mate.
almost mate. I couldn't tell whether you said mate or Matt.
I was going to try and work mate in there somewhere, but I couldn't.
Right. Okay. Indeed.
Anyway.
All right. Mac, back to the question of the day. What colors do you want to see more of in tartans? What are the answers? What have the answers been?
So the ones that I could pick out that I could find, we got light blues.
Okay.
We have chocolate.
Chocolate
Yes.
browns. Okay.
Yes.
This is one me and you have talked about, and there isn't very many selections for. More orange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
More blues again. Teal and or blue green.
Okay. Okay. Not very common. I understand.
Dark.
Yellow.
Well, I'm not that far yet, Kristen.
Patience. Grasshopper.
Dark crimson red. Somebody just said more muted color palettes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yellow was on there.
Yeller.
Somebody said they're just really drawn to primary colors, and just left it at that.
Like a box of crayons threw up.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay.
Purple. I 100% agree with this person. Mustard yellow.
Okay.
Yellows and oranges were also brought up again. A good gray, very monochromatic.
Okay.
Yellows, oranges, rich browns, golds. Purple was also brought up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the chartreuse with an accent, or with also a puke in there with an accent of circus peanut orange.
Yeah.
Here's I think what the trick will end up being, and I've it's the well I go to multiple times, is 2 shades of the same color. So like a lighter blue and a slightly darker blue that blend well together. If you think of like a Sherwin-Williams paint card, 2 colors just like 3 spots apart on the card. I think that could be. It always looks good because it blends well together, and then you can do other things with the rest of the colors that are in the tartan.
Yeah.
But doing 2 colors separated by a little bit of brightness or contrast or whatever, I think it could work. So
It also adds depth.
yes,
Exactly.
Yes, that's what I'm
Exactly.
getting at. Is it adds depth to the whole design? Yeah, I agree. So so a light blue and maybe a medium blue, but in the same family.
You heard all
I
those
like it.
colors and you're just going to blue. I'm on team yellow for this one. I like to see more
I
yellow.
wish, and it wasn't until Rocky pointed out about the oranges, there isn't their stock support isn't there for the oranges.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that there's
Okay.
not a lot of stocks. Like when we look at doing a particular tartan from Martin Mills in PV in yellow, there's like here's the 2 yellows that are your
Yeah.
option.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I want more than 2 freaking colors to work with. Or
Yeah.
orange. Like American Dream, we lucked out on. They have like 100 different reds and 100 different blues. But when it goes to yellow or orange or purple, it's really limited.
Yeah, some of the colors we're just kind of stuck with
Market forces.
without having to get into
Custom dyes.
Custom
Yep.
dyes.
Yep.
But you look at a lot of the clan tartans out there. What colors are they mostly? Greens, blues, reds, and that explains why there's so many options of
And
them.
because the mills don't want to stock 897 shades of red, I'd like to
Right.
stock this
Right.
shade as my modern red color, and I can use it for every single tartan that exists. So we want too many options that are not cost effective for the mills to be able to support, which is why custom dyes are fun but a big pain in the butt to go back and forth on to get it right. Getting it right matters as well. All right, boys and girls, thank you very much. If you have other colors or other color palettes or specific Pantone shades, put them down in the comments that you want to see more of in tartans. And until next time, Slanjava.